Welcome to the place where you, the individual atheist, can converse with me, the individual Christian. We refuse to debate because that'd be boring. That's not intelligent. Intelligent is recognizing, yes, we fundamentally agree, but we refuse to look down on each other. Imagine living your life where you have to look down on anyone that you fundamentally disagree with. Well, before too long, you'd realize that you're having to look down on the entire population of the world because talk to them enough, you're going to find something you fundamentally disagree on. Funny thing is, imagine if we weren't talking about Christianity and atheism, there'd be lots of things we would agree on. I think a lot of us would agree on what are my political views, which are libertarian, questioning the events of 9/11, questioning the fact that the guys on the plane that hijacked it were from Saudi Arabia, but we don't go to war with Saudi Arabia. Yeah. But instead, we're in this box, we're talking about things related to emotional intelligence in relation to us interacting as Christian versus atheists. And that's because it's not a versus. The whole point of these videos is that we're finding out what can we agree on. And I want to check out a very emotionally intelligent response that I received from somebody I really like around here. I made an atheist video called, "As an Atheist, do you believe I am being dishonest if I refuse to debate?" I don't know how to pronounce the screen name, but I'm going to go with Kohu Gali. Let's just go with that pronunciation. And there was several back and forths from his original comment that generated. But as we're scrolling down, as we can look at the conversation here, I really like what he said towards the bottom of this. So here we go. He says, "Nick, I totally get it. There's this mentality a person has as a child, teenager, and young adult that you naturally feel this sort of righteous anger at any perceived injustice. You eventually realize that your resources are limited and that some issues are worth working on while others are better working around. Interpersonal relationships, especially with strangers, tend to fall into the latter rather than the formal. This wisdom ultimately stems from maturity. Immature people define themselves by associating with external phenomena like music, sports, movies, books, clothing, things he likes, gender role he identifies as, job that he does, political ideology, religion he subscribes to, etc. A mature person defines himself by his own experiences, achievements, and ideas. The transition is gradual and usually comes with age due to the simple fact that a young person lacks personal experiences and achievements to identify with. As a result, an immature person is easier to be offended. You've just attacked any of the external things he identifies with, and the attack is automatically personal and is much prone to picking tribes," which I responded. I said, "I'm going to make a video based on this." And I said, "I assume based on your comment, you're at least age 35. A man younger than that can really offer up something so insightful." And he said, "Thanks, man. I'm actually 27. And he tells the story how he learned this. And so here's the thing. As you all know, I do a lot of those hair loss videos too. There's a big demand in the free market, again, libertarian reference, for me to constantly talk about that, as there is for me to make these atheist videos. And something I've learned is the guys that are so obsessed with hair loss are actually not even bald. They probably have no receding hairline, but they fear that one day they will go bald. Most of those viewers are in their teenage years, their 20s, or maybe early 30s. But I've learned that very few of my viewers on the hair loss channel are my age, 38 or older. Now, granted, some would say, well, that's because pretty much if you're going to go bald, you're going to go bald by age 35. True, but I also say that by age 35, you've figured out who you actually are. You don't base your identity and your confidence on something as superficial as how you look. It's like, oh, well, look at my Air Jordans or whatever superficial, artificial thing that we're talking about that's cool in junior high. We're focused on things that actually are part of our identity as an adult. Now, I know that, granted, most of my atheist viewers are men. That's demographics. We know that most atheists, locally and worldwide, are male. There are females, absolutely, but the majority of atheists are men. We know that. I don't think anyone's going to debate that. Very rarely do female commenters even say anything in these videos. It's almost always males. And I accept that. I get it. It makes sense to me. Men are more likely to commit suicide. Men are more likely to be atheists. I get it. It totally makes sense to me because I am a man, I am a male, and I think in a way that I can understand why that would make sense. In the same way that even with suicide, men are more likely to really commit to the job And whereas women, they probably do some pills and it might not work. A man is going to get a shotgun and put it to his head or whatever it is. He's going to commit it. Men and women are wired differently. That's not what this video is about though. This video is, well, it is part to do with men because most of you are men. And that comment actually makes me think of a verse in the Bible I'm sure most of you have heard of where Paul talks about, I put childish things away. When I became a man, I stopped thinking like a child, you know? And to me, that's what it comes down to, is that it's like an instant meme. It's like people who have never watched my videos are like, oh, there's a Christian, I get to debate this guy. And here's what they're saying in their mind. As soon as they see the video, they're like, come at me, bro, debate me, bro, come at me, bro, debate me, bro. That's what they want to do. And then I have no interest. And then like, oh yeah, well you're dishonest. You're hiding something. But see, to me, that's the childish mentality. And I think it's funny because I've mentioned this before, and what's the response? Well, I think people get offended when they hear that, if they are younger and they have less life experience, and then they accuse me of being an ageist. But see, what I think we have to recognize is, when you're older than age 35, naturally you see the world differently than when you're younger than 35, than when you're in your 20s, in your teenage years, when you're still sorting out who you are. And see, that's something I think that we don't address enough on these atheist videos. I'm not sorting out what I believe or don't believe. I'm not like, I'm thinking I might want to be an atheist because I've got questions about my own faith. So if I question my own faith at all, that means I might as well look at being an atheist. So why don't I make these videos to explore that? No, that's not why I do these videos. I do these videos because I think it's challenging me as a person. And it's funny because even as a byproduct, a positive one, I know most of you who watch my atheist videos don't watch the original songs that I write, that my wife and I perform, but there was one called The Meaning of Life. And I will tell you, I got to give all of you guys credit. That was largely inspired by these videos, The Meaning of Life. So if you haven't seen that song, look it up. It was only released a month or so ago, an original song that I wrote and performed with my wife, The Meaning of Life. And I promise you that if it weren't for these videos, I wouldn't have written that song. So yes, I've been challenged, but in a way that helps me understand my own faith better. I guess we could ultimately say identity protective cognition. You're going to believe what you already believe if you believe it strongly enough, and then when someone says the opposite, it reinforces what you all already believe. See, for me, I'm not making these videos to find out what I believe. I already know what I believe. But I feel, what we're not recognizing, I feel that a lot of people who watch my videos, yes, you're atheist, you're not interested in Christianity, but ultimately, there's part of you that's still exploring this concept of, is there any chance that Christianity is something I would ever know? Like, you're still kind of testing the waters. And it still reminds me of, and I read in a couple of videos ago, talk about the Babylon Bee, where it's like it's a fake news thing, and it says, study shows that more atheists are getting together to talk about how dumb religion is. It's one of those things where, speaking of the free market, why does the free market allow for a guy like this to keep popping up in search, suggestions on YouTube for atheists? There's a demand for that. People are searching for that. And I'm fascinated by that because I'm not sorting out what I believe. I'm interested ultimately in the emotional intelligence of it. That's what motivates me. I'm motivated. See, comments like that, and I've said this before, if we look at the emotional intelligence level of the people who watch these atheist videos, it's that top 5% who leave comments like that who get it. They're like, yeah, I can have a conversation with a Christian, even though I fundamentally disagree. I don't look down on him because of that. I can appreciate that we can talk about loftier things instead of focusing on what we disagree on. I'm so grateful for that comment. I'm going to make a hair loss video about it as well, because again, so many of my viewers haven't figured out who they are. They're still focusing on something so superficial. They haven't put away their childish ways yet. And so ultimately, I'm not asking you to identify your age, but ultimately what I'm predicting about people who are watching my videos, especially those who are in that bottom 5 as compared to the top 5% of the emotional intelligence scale, that those often are going to by default be younger guys. And granted, the guy that left that comment was 27, which I'm very impressed that he understands all that, because at age 27, I didn't know that. It wasn't until 35 that I started like getting to the point where I had a true identity, where I didn't care about arguing with anybody or defending myself or getting offended. Like that's something that I got seasoned. That's a reference to Joe Rogan Experience. He recently had a video. He kept saying, you get seasoned. And it's true. You do get seasoned as a man. You learn who you actually are. And that high conflict personality goes away. So I think age has a lot to do with this concept of being able to interact with a Christian without wanting to debate with them, without trying to say that they're being dishonest just because they don't want to debate. Again, that's a Christian example that I've seen from Jesus, where he was being questioned by Pilate and then by some more Jewish leaders, and they were making these accusations, and he finally he didn't even respond, because that's to me, that's that train of emotional intelligence that he's on, which is interesting because in theory Jesus was only 33 when he was crucified, and as a human living on earth, now I get it, I believe that Jesus was 100% human and 100% God, yes, but what I'm saying is on his earthly life, being born, crucified, I believe that was roughly 33 years. So he would have never even reached 35. But hey, he was God, says the Christian. Let's not get caught up on that. Let's focus on the topic of this video in the comments, which is roughly age 35 is the age it's going to take to where you stop having that high conflict personality, because you realize who you actually are and you're not trying to test out things. Closing thought. A guy told me a couple years ago, he said, when you see somebody post something on Facebook, if they're taking a selfie, right? You know, they're basically saying to the world, am I cool enough? Am I good looking enough? Am I funny enough? Am I pretty enough? Am I whatever enough? They're not making a statement as much as they are asking a question. And I think a lot of guys, especially watching my videos, that are younger than age 35, they're asking a question. Is there any chance that I believe in Christianity? Is there any credibility at all? Because I think viewers do recognize there's something different about a guy who's post age 35, who regularly makes these videos that people watch and refuses to debate. There's something different about that. Is that worth exploring? And then they go to the next video and then they're back to arguing with people. I think we really need to sort out the psychology of why you're even here. But the main focus I'm submitting to you based on this very intelligent comment, the more life you experience, especially after 35, you know who you are. You don't need a high conflict personality to argue and debate with people, because you know what you believe. What are your thoughts on that? Can you agree with anything I said? Right here.